Hello everyone, welcome to a new chess video. Every day, chess teacher, your introductions get more and more off-key. So what do you have for me today? Well, today I'm bringing you an opening that we've never talked about before on the channel. We've talked about the Scotch Gambit so many times, right? This one right here. When we play this very standard move here, we play d4, and when they capture... Wait, I'm getting confused. We play bishop to c4 right away, using this as a kind of gambit. However, this right here is actually the Scotch opening, an opening that causes a lot of headaches, especially for beginners. And do you know why? Because nobody knows how to play it. So in this video, I'm going to teach you two things. First, how to crush beginners, because I'm going to show you the mistakes that most of them make. And second, I'm going to teach you how to play it if your opponent also plays correctly. In other words, whether they play correctly or not, in this video, you'll have the answer for how to play this opening and win your games. So get comfortable, leave a like on this video if you enjoy this kind of content, and let's get started. What does the Scotch opening aim for? If anyone's lost, it's this simple, okay? On the third move, we play d4, the queen's pawn. We're aiming for two things. To capture here, winning a pawn, right? Because it's attacked by two pieces and only defended by one. And another thing we're also aiming for is pushing the pawn forward, which really bothers this knight, who will most likely have to move back. And notice here that we're threatening a really strong expansion, right? So d4, let me tell you something. There's only one good response for black. If they try to defend the pawn and all that, you just push forward and you'll end up in a great position, okay? So the only good response is to capture. And here we're going to recapture with the knight. This is the Scotch opening, which we've never covered before on the channel. Like I said, we've looked at the Scotch Gambit. The first mistake I see a lot, especially among amateurs, even up to 1700 or 1800 ELO, I run into this mistake very often. Here they trade knights. And let me tell you something, this is not a good idea for black, okay? Why is that? Well, they think that trading knights is good. They say, look, instead of letting them capture me and double my pawns, I'll capture first, and now you have your queen in the center of the board. And let me tell you something, having your queen in the center of the board isn't always a bad thing. It's usually bad, okay? It's usually bad if the queen can be easily chased away. If this queen can't be chased away, notice that the queen is the piece that controls the most squares in the whole game. So it can have its pros and it can have its cons. In this case, there's no easy way to chase the queen away, except with this pawn, right? Alright, a move I see a lot here, and which really is a serious mistake, is developing the knight. It seems like a very normal move, right? I develop the knight to f6. Nothing seems wrong here, it's just that, of course, there's no e5 pawn here, which would stop us from advancing the pawn. So now we can push this pawn, and the game gets really, really complicated for them. That is, they have to move this knight, and they only have two squares, because notice that it can't go forward because of the queen, and it can't go here either. It could only go here, but in that case, it would lose the knight thanks to this move. Notice that this knight can't go anywhere now, and the other move it has is to go back. Super sad, right? We could keep up the pressure, for example with bishop to c4, and we'd be in a really, really good position. There's a tactic I've seen a lot of people use, which is, well, if the queen is the one covering all the squares and all the possible jumps for the knight, you just chase it away with c5, defended by my bishop. And when you move the queen, then I put the knight on whatever square you leave open. We're gonna put the queen here, and I'll explain why. We want to put it here precisely so we don't block the white bishop's diagonal. And now the black pieces say, well, perfect, now I can jump with the knight and even threaten your queen. However, it's true that it looks like they're getting out of trouble, but they're actually in an even worse position, you know? There's nothing to worry about here. What do you have to do? Well, all you have to do is threaten the knight again with your queen. Queen to e4. And now, where can this knight go? Well, if you look closely, it only has one square, which is to come here. What we would do is simply trade this bishop for this knight, double their pawns, and this position would be a goldmine for us. If, on the other hand, they try, which is what I ran into the other day, to play this move here, right, d5, attacking the queen, this doesn't help them at all, because we can capture en passant, giving a discovered check. They can't block with the bishop, they can't block with the queen. Thanks to this pawn, the only way they can block is with this bishop on e6. And now we would simply have several completely decisive moves. The big move is this one right here, right? We give check with bishop to b5, and they're going to have to resign. The king can't move, the bishop can't come back because it's pinned, they have to give up the queen, and after bishop takes queen, we have an extra queen. And not only that, but now queen takes pawn, check, and we'll have a queen and a rook up. Isn't this deal, wasn't it? It's a typical mistake people make in the Scotch opening. It's obviously not the right way for black to play. However, if someone plays this against you, you need to know how to respond. Look how easy it is. E4, E5, knight to F3, knight to C6, and we play D4, the Scotch opening. The only good move is pawn takes pawn. And now here we recapture with the knight, alright? For those of you who are more aggressive, you already know you can play the Scotch Gambit attack, which is super aggressive, and we've seen it several times on the channel. I've been checking the database, and in this position, which is the standard one in the Scotch opening, I've noticed that if we look at grandmasters and professionals, hardly anyone exchanges this knight here. But I've checked games under 1800 ELO, and the favorite move, without a doubt, is knight takes knight. That's why I'm mentioning it to you, alright? Now let's move on and calmly see what happens if they don't do that and play correctly, because that's also very straightforward. But here, as I just said, this queen ends up way too well placed. Knight to f6 was a mistake, right? We would advance and win the game almost for sure. What should they do? Well, it's much more prudent to play d6. It makes perfect sense, right? Why? Because simply d6 is stopping the possible advance of the e-pawn, so they can develop their knight normally. This is the most normal thing in the world. So how are we going to continue? By developing our pieces. In this case, I'm going to recommend, and keep this in mind, notice that I'm teaching you very few moves. They're easy to remember. Some of you will memorize them after the first round of the video. Others will need to watch the video a few more times. That's absolutely fine. You'll always have it available to you. Keep it safe. Perfect. Here's the trick I'm going to give you, pay attention, is to castle long. And this trick is going to help you a lot. Pay attention. For example, now you can develop the mate. It makes sense because now e5 wouldn't be as strong as before. It would be stronger now to develop the bishop. What are we doing? Developing the queen side. We develop the queen, we develop the knight, and we develop the bishop. That is, whenever we capture here with the queen, we develop the queen side and castle long. See how simple it is? We set up a brutal pin. Now we really are threatening this. Maybe with f4 and e5, and thanks to castling long, these pawns can advance. The logical move is for them to play bishop to e7, since this bishop can't go anywhere else, right? And so thanks to this pin, they defend with bishop to e7. It's by far the most commonly played move, isn't it? And what are we going to do? Castle long. Notice that we've achieved exactly the plan we wanted, and you'll always be able to do it, because it's very simple. You develop the knight and the bishop and castle long. Logically, your opponent is going to castle short, right? I mean, that's by far the most common thing to do. And here we have a really good move that we're now ready for. Once we've castled, we're going to break with e5. And you might ask me, chess teacher, why not before and why now? Well, now you have the advantage that you're already castled and your rook is aiming at the queen. And you might say, yeah, but now if they capture, nothing really happens either. Because look, they capture, I take the queen, you capture over here. At most, there would just be a rook exchange, right? And nothing would really happen here. Well, no, look closely, because the idea here is that when they capture you, because they have to capture, right? Because if they retreat with the knight, they'll end up way too passive. We could exchange here, and they'd have doubled pawns. They have to capture, and then we recapture with the queen, and thanks to this, we're opening the file to attack their queen. Obviously, they don't want to get into trouble and pin their own queen. That would be good for us. In this case, maybe it's better for them to move the queen away. However, moving the queen away has a very serious problem. Do you know what the problem is? Well, the problem is the following. First, we capture this pawn, and now here, against almost any move, against almost any, right? The most common is bishop to e6, but it could also be bishop to f4, bishop to g5, right? Even bishop to d7 against almost any move. Let's see, bishop to e6. I can't even talk, chess teacher. What's wrong with you? Sure. What's wrong with you? Well, here we're going to play this beautiful move, and what we're doing here is winning a piece. Why? Because we're attacking the queen, and this queen can't keep defending this bishop. Easy it. They have to move the queen away, and we simply take the bishop with our queen. Do you see this big difference between advancing now and advancing earlier thanks to the rook's file? The queen couldn't keep defending the bishop. The queen was always in trouble because of the file. And that's why this attack is so much stronger with the long castle. Cut it out with the nonsense, chess teacher. You're really worked up today, huh? And what happens if in the Scotch opening they don't capture my knight? Why does nobody capture my knight? First of all, why are you so worked up today, chess teacher? Well, it's because it's been raining non-stop for 2 weeks, you know? And today the sun finally came out. And when the sun comes out, I finally get happy. So you'll have to forgive me, okay? You'll have to put up with me being a little more annoying today. What happens when they don't capture you here? Well, this is the simplest thing in the world. The Scotch opening is very straightforward, I assure you. You can play it very successfully because there's really no big secret to it. If they exchange here, as you've already seen, you have some spectacular plans. You simply capture with the queen, develop your knight and bishop, castle long, and it's the easiest thing in the world. But what happens if they don't capture the knight, which is actually the correct move? For example, if they play knight to f6, attacking this pawn, now we can't advance because they would simply play knight takes e5, and nothing really happens here, right? So what should we do? Well, it's actually very simple. You just need to keep one thing in mind. Don't play bishop to d3 to defend the pawn, because they'll simply capture your knight. You have to remember that there's this natural tension between the two knights, and our knight is well defended by the queen. Don't put any pieces between the queen and the knight before exchanging these knights. Very good. So we defend with knight to c3. See how simple that is, right? In no matter how much they keep putting pressure on us, which they are, by the way. Why is that? Because that's the only way black has to put pressure on us. Now it looks like we're in trouble. They're attacking this knight, they're attacking this pawn, and the knight is pinned, right? If we play bishop to d2, watch out. Problems arise, because they'll capture here, since we've put a piece between the queen and the knight. What should we do, chess teacher? What should we do? We're lost. No, don't worry, it's very simple. Let's see, the problem is this knight. Okay, easy, what would I like to do? Now they're attacking this pawn, right? I'm explaining it this way so everyone can understand, okay? They're attacking this pawn and it's defended by the knight, which is pinned. So then I defend the pawn again, but what happens if I defend the pawn? I lose the bishop, right? So what should I do? Simple conclusion, I exchange the knight first, and when they recapture, I just place the bishop here, and everything is defended. Nothing happened here. If your pawns get doubled, theirs are doubled too, so it's no big deal. If they exchange here with this pawn, they even lose castling rights, and now we simply defend this point again, and nothing at all has happened here. You're going to castle short, bring this bishop over here to apply pressure, bring your rooks to the center, and the position will be the most comfortable in the world, just like with both queens. Nothing changes at all here. With both queens, we're in exactly the same situation. And one thing you should keep in mind, which I almost forgot, in the Scotch opening, this is super important, okay? I'm getting carried away. You know I'm feeling aggressive today. I used to be a Scotch player. Let me tell you, I used to play the Scotch opening. Here, when you play the Scotch, there's something you always need to keep in mind in your games. You capture here, and now they can play bishop to c5. Bishop to c5 is a very commonly used move, okay? Why? Because now what they're doing is putting pressure on us with two pieces, right? The bishop and the knight in, they're only defended by one. Is it a good idea to trade knights? Well, it wouldn't be bad, not bad at all, but this bishop would become very active. I'm going to recommend a move that helped me win a lot of games, especially when I played in tournaments, when I was very young, when I was 7 years old and I had about 1800 ELO, okay? I came across a lot of players who would fall for this little, well, let's call it a little riddle, a little trick, where I would play bishop to e3, right? I would play bishop to e3 and they would just keep going without thinking about it. Okay, yeah, so they think, I attacked your knight with two pieces, you defend it with two pieces, and they just keep developing normally. And this is a serious mistake, a really serious one, because they simply lose a piece. How? Well, by knight takes that. Look, the discovered attack works. Why does it work? Because we're attacking the queen. And since we're attacking the queen, they have to capture the knight first, and then, look, after the exchange of knights, now we have this bishop for free, right? We would win a piece. What should black do here to avoid losing a piece? It's obvious, isn't it? We play bishop to e3, and what they should do are two things. Either exchange pieces here, which would benefit us, or retreat the bishop, which is the good move. In this case, if they've played well against you, then you have several plans. You can develop the bishop and castle short, or you can develop the knight and the queen, castle long, and launch all your pawns toward the king side. The good thing about the Scotch opening is that depending on how your opponent plays, you can be very creative and have many interesting plans to play. To show you how effective and good it is, no matter what they do, just take a close look at this game. Here, they simply captured the pawn, and instead of capturing back or playing knight to f6 or bishop to c5, the normal move was to play d5. And you might say, sure, Chestershire, all of these are possible, but if they go off theory, if they play something I haven't studied, which happens to me a lot, what should I do? Well, don't worry, you just need to stick to the concepts. The same things you've studied, just try to apply why that's happening. Try to do it yourself. For example, here they simply leave this square open. They leave the square open. I don't even know what I just said. I'm totally crazy today. Completely crazy. Give me a good like so I can go completely crazy later today when I see I have a lot of likes, okay? Now look, check out what he did. The white pieces pin this knight, and black decided to defend it with bishop to d7. And that's already a serious mistake. Why? Because you simply take pawn for pawn, and this pawn is left completely for free. Although this isn't totally lost, because it's just a pawn, and now black kept thumping. Check out how the player with the white pieces finished it off, because it's really beautiful. Beautiful and impressive. Queen to e7, check. The player with the white pieces could block with the queen, with the knight, or with both bishops. He decided to pull back his knight, which was under attack, to e2, simply to block this check. And now black obviously has to move this knight that's being attacked by the pawn. Where do they move it? In this case, they move it here to the center of the board. Very well, white simply decided to trade this bishop before losing it, which is obvious. And black, captured with the queen? No, they captured with the knight, Chestershire. Try to remember the games you show me, because if even you can't remember, let's see what ends up happening here, right? Very well, white castles. Now, the queen really should move out of the way here because rook to e1 is coming, and be careful not to lose your queen. Queen to d6 for black, bishop to f4 putting on a lot of pressure. Notice that white's pieces are coordinated in a way that black's pieces will never be. They're coming here to attack this point, and a huge mistake, capturing this pawn. Don't be greedy, my friends. Don't be greedy over a pawn. Notice now that rook to b1 comes in, the queen has to move, and then the decisive blow. The knight jumps to b5, attacking the queen and threatening this fork here. No matter how much black tries to come here to defend this point, since we have the bishop, white finishes with knight takes c7 check. The king has to move, knight takes rook, and that's how it ends. Bringing this bishop in here, bishop to c7 check, and they're going to snatch your queen on the next move. This is just an example to show you how the Scotch opening can be crushed. Of course black made mistakes, but be careful because your opponents, unless they're Magnus Carlsen, are always going to make mistakes. So let's try to take advantage of them. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Leave a big like, okay? Please give it a big like and save this video in case you want to review it, since I really recommend the Scotch opening. If you want me to go a bit deeper into this opening, because, well, I left out a lot of lines, obviously, let me know in the comments, and I'll make another video going into it a bit more. A slightly more serious video, okay? With more variations included. Just leave it in the comments and we'll take a look at it, alright? Alright, I hope you loved this video and I'll see you tomorrow in the next one, friends. Goodbye.